this computer. Good morning, good day, good evening, good. I actually, uh, dear viewers and listeners, I actually became aware that unintentionally stole this from Michael Neal. He always says that. So no bad intent here, but however, welcome to episode number 13 of the Dandelion Reflections, where
Welcome, everyone.
yes, Caroline, I'm sorry,
No, I said just welcome. Yes.
where Caroline and I just have a dialogue about our thoughts around different topics. And today's topic is, Caroline, what is it?
It's going to be on deattachment.
Deattachment. And we found out just before we hit the record button that there's actually something with this with the word uh, deattachment, and we were thinking of what's the difference between deattachment and detachment.
Hmm.
And
Right.
Caroline, you are very good with words. You are so eloquent, and also English native and French native speaker. So, what are your thoughts around these two words?
Yes. Well, the way I understand it is detachment applies to, let's say, emotions. When we are in a situation and we want to respond effectively, it's better that we are emotionally detached or that we create some distance between a situation and our own emotional experience. But deattachment implies that there was an attachment that happened, and eventually there's an intentional deattachment process or a separation between oneself and a situation, an opinion, a person, etc. A little bit like we talked about in our blog about, not our blog, sorry, our podcast about decluttering
Right.
or letting go intentionally. So deattachment is a similar process, except that today we'll apply it to more maybe abstract or less tangible situations. So detachment is good. We practice that trying to regulate our emotions, and we can achieve that by doing meditation, for instance. And the deattachment is also a emotional process, but there's a little bit of a cognitive process too. So letting go of
Hmm.
emotions and not identifying. It's a little bit of a de-identification too, with belief systems and conceptualizations. What do you think?
I think that sounds uh, beautiful, and I'm already my brain is galloping
Yes.
uh, away with my with it, and I'm seeing this idea of decluttering that we, as you mentioned, had in our last podcast, number 12, um, where you can actually make the decision to not hang on to whatever, not only physical things, but also emotions and relationships. So detachment can actually, yeah, that can be a lifestyle thing, can it be?
Hmm. Yes, de-attachment. Yes, it's really, I think, a form of derivative of acknowledging that life or everything is impermanent. Because when you know that, you're not going to cling onto things. You're not going to think everything is eternal.
Buddha
Buddha.
said it.
Right, exactly. It's a really one of the, I guess, the pillars or the truths in the Buddha, and often a theme in Dharma talks.
Mm,
So, yeah, I think it's a lifestyle. I mean, Buddhism, yeah, we view that as a religion, but to me, it's more a lifestyle.
Mm. Buddha
Um,
himself said it's another real is said to have said that he doesn't want anyone to what's the word pray to himself or put him onto a pedestal. He
yes.
put very much um, of the work to the individual. Not that we would connect or cling or attach to something that we would say is a god, but rather seek the powers and the abilities in ourselves to try to solve situations.
That is a beautiful example. Yes. Detaching to an idea of a superior being in a specific form. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, really like being open minded to a shift of beliefs or transformation of ideologies. I think, yeah. And he was not a god, Buddha, he was an enlightened being.
Hmm.
So, versus other religions, generally, there is a god or many gods that people tend to pray for or adore or so that's why it's not really a religion in a way,
Hmm.
it's although it's classified as such. So yeah, a mindful way of detachment is a way, it's part of a way of life that Buddha invited
Hmm.
followers um, to to look at. Yes.
Right. I some years ago I found a some kind of a flow chart in my social media flow where it basically says, "Can you problem? Can you change it?
Hmm.
Yes. Okay. Uh, let go if you can change it. And problem, can you change it? No. Okay. Then let go because you have no power over it. And
Right.
and that I like that very much already then, but I didn't really make this step to actually implement that into my life. That
Hmm.
came much later, and I think that is something that we could um,
Yeah.
maybe label as de-attachment, can't we?
Yes, I love that because initially there was an attachment to maybe your thought that you could solve anything,
Oh
that
yeah.
anything is under our control. That's a common belief that we are clinging onto, and that's not serving us. We realize that sooner or later. So we have to let go of that. But yeah, it's a good way to, it's a good example, I think, a good
Hmm.
application. Initially, we might also believe that, oh yeah, that makes sense, I need to let go, but experientially we're not there yet. So
Hmm.
it's a general process. Yeah, but the de-attachment to outcomes has been major for me, and following that algorithm you just described, it's like I realized that there's so little we control, and therefore I need to let go of the outcome because I have no control over the outcome. So all I can control in this moment is really how I approach life with
Hmm.
intention and being in the moment.
Do you have, do you want to share an example of your life where you actually de-attached?
Yes. Yes, I guess some some opinions, being attached to my own ideas or opinions about certain things, because at some point we think that our opinions define us or that we're defined by our opinions, and they become embedded in the identity. And I saw that in my entourage, people being really, really attached to their beliefs and opinions. And if they were challenged, it's basically telling them that we don't accept them or that they're
Oh
wrong,
yeah.
and they take that personally, right? So, and I saw the damage and how polarizing this was, and I thought, well, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be attached to my opinions. Opinions are just that, they're just thoughts, opinions. they're impermanent like everything else, and we're not our opinions. We're bigger than that. So I'm like,
Hmm.
I don't want to attach to that. I want to let go, and there's going to be room for new, more adapted beliefs or whatever. So I've noticed that in various areas of my life, and also detaching to certain relationships that were damaging. And, we can't force people to love us, right? So that's another
You're right.
major lesson for me. I realized, okay, I have to accept that we're different. And so then I detached, and it made room for things that are more aligned with who I am in my life. So,
Wonderful. So you mentioned this cultural, religious, or whatever values that are um, implied, thrown at us from early age.
right,
You have to be like this, or you have to follow these rules or
right.
boundaries or whatever to feel a part of us,
Yes.
to feel loved, to be accepted, to
Mhm.
get a certain pay grade or whatever. So that can be a horrible experience for people, and
Yes.
then we take that with us into adult life, and suddenly we see, oh, this doesn't really serve me, and
Right.
so detaching from that. I can share something from my own experience. I grew up in a community that, for from my perspective, had very high emphasis on values of certain um, brand, clothing brands,
Mm.
designer, uh, furniture, uh, car makes, all this.
Yeah.
Uh, you had to have things like this to be able to be in this group of people, and I someday realized I don't like that. That's not me. So I felt like the black sheep of the family. Um,
Mm.
and so I thought I need to break out of it. And then it was painful for everyone involved,
Mhm.
of course, until we realigned on a different basis. But that was so important for me to make this step, even if it was painful.
Right.
Um, and I think it was one of my first uh, really the steps of um, detaching from
Yeah.
this that I made. I'm looking for that word. Um, I only have the Swedish word in my head now. Whatever.
Yes.
Uh, where I really was aware of what I'm
Yeah.
doing.
Okay.
I temporarily cut some bonds to be able to get out of it, and so. And that is
Mm.
totally possible. And of course, we all have to make a decision at some time in our lives. Do I
Mhm.
want to continue go this path,
Mhm.
even if I don't really like it, or do I actually want to take a
Yeah.
different path and
Right.
take the consequences of both
Mhm.
paths, of course, or that path that you choose to take? And that's
Mhm.
something that is
Yes.
that's a very important decision today to make.
Thank you for sharing that example, Christopher. It's a very powerful example. You basically learn to detach from other people's approval, because it seems like to be part of that group, your family of origin, there were
Mm.
certain rules, unspoken, unwritten,
Oh yeah.
implicit, whatever, that were there and that you needed to follow in order to maintain stability and be part of the group, but it just didn't align with who you were.
Hmm.
And when you once you became aware, you made the decision to take the risk of losing something, but you gained more in authenticity. And yeah, there's a temporary phase where there's uncertainty and it's scary because yeah, we're detaching. The
Hmm.
detachment can be hard because, well, what's happening there, it's there's nothing, and we feel like the ground is unstable under our feet, but eventually it's even opening up more possibilities and expansion, and it's for our own growth. But not everyone is able to see that nor break away from that. And
Hmm.
that, so you were, and yeah, so detaching from values that are no longer aligned with our what we
Hmm.
want. It's a tough step, but you did it. That's a great example.
In my birth country, Germany, there's they're having an election very soon, and we have
Mhm.
had the election in the United States for a few weeks ago, I think.
Yes. Yeah. The inauguration was a few
Right, right. The
weeks ago.
inauguration was then, right. The
Yeah,
election
4 weeks
was in
ago.
fact last year.
Yeah.
Um, and so political
Mm.
family values, political views, that's
Hmm.
also something, right?
Right.
We could we sometimes maybe more often than we actually do need to review
Hmm.
and detach from.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we can go back to one of our episodes too when we talked about labels.
Hmm.
Um, because people even here in this country, I was shocked actually when I found out that people are registered already when they receive correspondence for elections, like as a Republican or as a Democrat. I'm like, what? Your name is already attached to a party? I feel like I grew up in Canada. I've never heard of that. Like people are
Hmm.
not assigned a party forever, you know? It's like people often vote for the person, not the party.
Yes.
So, but it seems like in the US, they're really attached to this binary kind of system. You're either or, you're one
Hmm.
or the other. You can't transcend that. You can't say, well, one, election or one term, I'm going to vote for this person, even if it's not typically in the party I usually vote for. It's so bizarre to me. So I find that actually very disturbing. I feel like
Hmm.
in this country, people have not detached for that binary system or that like
Hmm.
adversarial system. And the problem is like when we don't detach, we do things automatically. It's not with
Right.
a renewed
Yeah.
perspective. We're just like robots.
Hmm.
We're not thinking anymore. That's scary.
The older generation, both here in Sweden and in Germany, they often tend to, you know, stick to what they've voted
Yeah.
for many years, and to try
Hmm.
to give that to their children too, of course, because there's more than two uh, different parties to choose from.
Yeah.
So the younger generations, uh, well, they have a lot easier to, I'll let me try this one, or to actually
Hmm.
make a choice where it's more than just one question or
Yeah.
one person.
Right.
So um, oh, maybe we should not let this go off into the political stuff, but just to detach from the values or your thoughts or convictions that you had for the past 4 years. Maybe they're not right anymore. Maybe the
Hmm.
situations have changed. Maybe your
Yeah.
life situation or your values have changed. So why not
Hmm.
let go
Right.
and try something else? And that's not only in the political world, of course. That's
Yeah.
in everyday situations, isn't that the case? Like,
Yes.
let me
In,
throw in another word, relationships.
in relationships, yeah. Viewing relationships in a specific format, or following a certain set of rules without looking at each relationship as being its own relationship and
Hmm.
between two people. And it all has to be kind of played out as we go. And I see that in science too. People, oh no, we have to do it this way because this is what the science had told us so far, but there's always
Hmm.
something new. So yeah, it's a problem. I think ego is to blame there, because the ego again absorbs those opinions or views and
Right.
identifies with them. And if they don't, eventually we question those, it basically means we question our identity, and it's too threatening. So
Yes.
yeah.
It's threatening, and that we our beliefs are threatened, and we
Hmm.
somehow we think, oh no, this is a dangerous situation for us, and it may have been for, I don't know, 30, 40,000 years, but uh, but it's not anymore. And so we're much safer nowadays to
Right.
when we change our values than we were long before. And you mentioned there this our tendency to keep our path that we
Hmm.
have once chosen.
Right.
I think Chris Niebauer described that in his book No Self, No Problem. Um,
Hmm.
that I think it was the left brain, right? That tends to be the one that keeps us going into
Hmm.
the along the path that we have chosen, and the right brain is more the one that is, oh, well, why not try this? And then the left brain comes, no, we're going straight.
Yes, I like that left brain, right brain kind of paradigm, because the left brain is more associated with ego functions, which are fine in certain contexts. We just have to use them with discernment. We need to know when to leave the ego at the door,
Yeah.
right? And then we need to know when to listen to the right brain, which is more intuitive, creative. And we need to listen to both and increase communication between both so they can be harmonized.
Hmm.
Um, but the left brain should not be always be in charge, right? It's very
Right.
limited, because it's about procedures. It's about the rational thinking, which is again good in certain contexts. So yes, the left brain is a tool, but it should not run the show.
Is it true that the left brain, the is the one that's working much faster?
It's a good question. I would tend to think so, because when we talk about generalizations, or you know thought processes that are like efficient and energy saving,
Hmm.
yeah, that's why we have the biases. You know, that's
Right.
because we tend to categorize it because it was efficient to put people in certain categories and not have to think every time about what to do.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think that could be that one. It's less reflective as opposed
Right.
to the intuitive side, the right side. So that would
And
make
it
sense. Yeah.
and it is the part of our brain that takes control in case we are in these fight or flight situations, right? We have to think quickly, is this something dangerous or not? And if it's
Yes.
dangerous, what do I do next? Do I take my spear and try to fight this tiger, or do I
Yeah.
rather run away from this mammoth that's chasing me?
Right. Yes. And I see that a lot. Those stress response systems getting dysregulated because the trauma, what it does, it makes people live in their head a lot. And they're thinking about the worst possible scenario, and misinterpreting, and always thinking that the world wants to harm them, or people want to harm them. So it's designed to protect us, but it's often in overdrive. So we need
Hmm.
to rebalance that by, going in our right brain too. Will calm us down and say, no, be in the
Hmm.
moment. And broaden the perspective. Because what is trauma response? It's a tunnel vision.
Hmm.
It's we just look at a sense of threat without looking at the big picture. Oh no, we misinterpreted. It was put in that context. Therefore, I'm safe.
Right. And our in our today's world, we covered that in maybe just about each of our episodes. We are under constant stress and therefore under constant fight or flight mode. And
Yes.
in this mode, when our brain is feeling chased,
Yeah.
then we have a hard time of you know just yeah, stopping and becoming aware of the situation, what really is, not what we make it to be, what our brain is making it to be, but what really is. And
Mm-hmm.
I know you are a strong advocate for meditation.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that could be one piece
Yeah.
to one step to becoming more aware, right? So how do you
Yes.
meditate? There are thousands of ways to meditate, of course, but which one are the
Yes.
ones you prefer?
Well, there are so many ways. I do prefer once in a while just sitting and doing nothing or listening to a guided meditation. So either on my app or going to the Dharma Center in town. So there's this Buddhist temple where people meet once a week, and there's a 30-minute sit meditation.
Hmm.
And after that, there's someone who's going to present on a topic. But I really like that sense of community, because when I meditate with others, I find that very powerful. But I need to do both, also be by myself and also walking. And you do that too, Christopher, right? Like being in
Hmm.
nature and just doing that allows me to be in the moment. So what is meditation is really having a direct experience with all of life, either what's happening inside of us or around us, with curiosity and without judgment.
Right.
Yeah, so it can take various forms. And some people will use deep breathing or body scan, or there's no wrong way, as long as we're in the moment and
Hmm.
try to be grounded and noticing what's happening in our head, so we're not too much in it and we detach from it for our mental activity.
Thank you. I was that was
Yes.
would have been my next step.
Yeah.
How do we detach it from this in this
Yeah.
moment of letting go uh,
Yeah.
of the things that are stressing
Hmm.
us? When we feel okay, my body is starting to relax. I can actually feel the ground under my feet. I can
Yeah.
smell uh,
Hmm.
the flowers. I can
Yes.
actually feel the mattress under my back when I'm lying there and
Yes.
sinking into it and feeling my body getting uh, heavier and heavier into the mattress. And so
Yes.
detachment.
Detachment, and what you just described, Christopher, is another very important portal to meditation, is the engagement of the senses.
Oh yeah. Let us
You
know more
are,
about that.
yeah. So just, when I visited you, for instance, we
Mm.
practiced that almost every time we met, being in nature, walking when it was raining, and
Hmm.
also tasting some of the apples near, in
Yeah,
your backyard or front yard, and they were kind of sour, and then we were just
right.
describing
Mm.
how it felt, and just really paying attention to like the sound, the sights, the smell, the
Hmm.
taste, and the touch. So that's what I mean, doing something that engages our senses, whether it's walking, whether it's doing something artistic,
Hmm.
dancing, singing, listening. Yeah, so that's a way to be
Yeah,
in meditation.
wonderful. And you know what? That's interesting. Having good food and actually sitting there and enjoying what you are
Yeah.
tasting and trying
Yes.
to really taste all these
Yeah.
the texture in your mouth and all
Yeah.
these different things that you have in your mouth, and that can be very meditative.
Yes. I think everything we do should be done mindfully, whether it's
Yes.
eating, whether it's talking to each other, whether it's holding a book, whether it's taking a bath, folding the laundry,
Hmm.
sweeping. One of my preferred activities is actually sweeping. There are a ton of leaves on my yard because I have many oak trees. And in
Hmm.
California, there are no real defined seasons. It's like the fall, three seasons per year, pretty much.
Hmm.
So there's always a ton of leaves that I need to sweep. But I learned to use that as my meditation practice,
Great.
one of my many meditation practices. So, yeah, exactly. It's doing everything mindfully. Yeah.
I was here's another uh, situation that we could use detachment, and that is in we mentioned that before, relationships or discussions maybe. And I do
Yeah.
want to take this up as uh, in this talk. When we find ourselves in a discussion about maybe not so nice topic where we feel that we're the discussion is getting a little heated, may it be with your spouse or with a friend or somewhere on the street, and we often tend to try to convince the other part of that our way to see it is the right way, right? And exactly the same thing happens from the other person often.
Yeah. Right.
And so this is how war starts,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, so how
Hmm.
this is I think this is also something that is very, very common, but a very, there's an easy fix to that, isn't there?
Hmm. Yeah. Oh gosh, that's a tough one for me because I found that really difficult to disengage from these situations.
Right.
It's like people sometimes need to have an audience to
Hmm.
debate or share their opinions, and I don't want to get into these debates or polarizations. So I'd rather disengage because I feel like there's no longer a dialogue when all you try to do is convince me.
Mm.
That means we're not listening anymore to each other. So, or you're not
That's
listening.
very important. Thank you for that you say this. And I think this is
Yeah.
just let's
Yeah.
draw a line under this because this is
Yeah.
very important when we feel when we become
Mhm.
aware that we're
Right.
just trying to uh, throw rocks at each other instead of learning
Hmm.
from each other, then that's something
Yeah.
that where we should a place
Right.
where we should detach.
Yeah, because it's no longer evolutive. And I
Hmm.
tend to leave those conversations. I have no interest in feeding
Mm.
them. And
And
the
what's
problem is,
sorry?
yeah,
Yeah, the problem is.
the problem is when people get so attached in their opinion, they're also very insecure and they need to convince others to not feel
Hmm.
alone in their insecurity or whatever. But then they might realize that they were wrong. And instead of admitting that, they
Hmm.
actually will be even more like anchored in their position, and that will almost look delusional. So, because
There's the left
admitting that
brain
they're
again.
wrong, huh?
There's the left brain again.
The left brain, exactly. So the left brain can become dysregulated. It's
Hmm.
really, really powerful. It's like the ego is dominating everything. So if the ego admits I was wrong, then it's basically the end of the ego. And that's sometimes, oh my gosh, the end of the world for people. But
Yeah.
no, we need to let that go too. It
Mm.
just creates more polarization. Just, yeah, this need to convince, this need to be right, this need,
Hmm.
it's a power dynamic.
It is, yeah.
It's so, but yeah, some people need to create hierarchies. My thought, my
Hmm.
reasoning is better than yours, whatever. No, we all have a piece to the puzzle, I
Hmm.
think. And sometimes it's distorted, so we can adjust it, learning from each other. It's all a process. Everything is in movement, is in progression. So, but yeah,
Yes.
people, it's rigidity, consolidation as opposed to
Hmm.
fluidity. I much prefer the fluidity of an
Yes.
exchange.
Yeah, that's much better. In such situations, I feel it helps me a lot when I visualize a a bubble around me about
Mm.
an
Yes.
arm's length. Uh, and okay, here's my bubble,
Mm-hmm.
and this is what I can control.
Right.
And well, it happens to be that this other person is not in this bubble because it's
Yes.
standing, he or she is standing,
Yeah.
I don't know, 3 inches, a meter or a meter and a half away from me. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not mine to convince this person if
Mm-hmm.
they don't want to be convinced, or they're not open to learn, or they're not
Mm-hmm.
open to listening. They're just open
Right.
to give replies.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's setting a boundary and it's self-preservation.
Hmm.
I mean, I really think we need to do that. And just like you were mentioning earlier before we recorded, like the example of massive, um, rapid fire kind of executive
Hmm.
orders, it's meant to sway people, to put them in a state of shock because people are stunned, can't react,
Hmm.
and tactic. And we just need to see that happening for what it is. It's controlling people's brain power or
Hmm.
ability to respond. So that's another reason why we should try to be really careful to what we react to
Yeah,
and
and it keeps us
self-preserve.
in another
Hmm.
state of shock, state of stress, where we
Hmm.
keep on, yeah, being attached to our ego. Then
Yeah.
wonderful, or wonderful or not wonderful. Wonderful for those who become aware and see
Yes.
what's actually happening uh, in our brains, in our close or not so close relationships, and in the
Yes.
world. But then is it some things we can't? No, some things we can actually do something against. There's a ton. A ton doesn't even uh, describe it. There's millions of tons of problems out there that we could engage in, right? And we
Mm.
are just us, right? We're
Right.
not, we can't be everywhere. There's, I don't know,
Hmm.
child abuse there, animal abuse there, and
Yeah.
environmental problems everywhere in the world. And
Hmm.
we we need to focus, and for to be able to focus, of course, what is it that I can do, that I
Yeah.
choose to do, to
Hmm.
engage in right now? What's my little thing that I want to contribute to, so the world is
Hmm.
just a little bit better?
Oh, I love this, Christopher. As you were talking about awareness, and I had all kinds of words emerging in my head, including peace. I think when we detached, we actually realize the peace and awareness that we all are, that we
Hmm.
have at our core. So I think it's really more about shedding than doing anything specific, because once we shed all of those beliefs,
Hmm.
opinions, the things we are clinging onto, then we have access to this peace in us. And when we have access to it, we realize we are it. And then what's better for this world than being peace right now, being
Yes.
embodied peace
Hmm.
and being aware of what's happening and responding accordingly in
Hmm.
our own limited capacity. You're right, we can't fix every single problem, but if we're mindful, if there's a situation that comes our way and we're able to solve, then here's our contribution
Yes.
and it will have a ripple effect.
Hmm.
So I would just say, like, trying to achieve that sense of inner peace and be there as much as we can.
Hmm. And just, we can be paralyzed by seeing, oh
Mhm.
my God, there's so many problems, and where should I
Yeah.
start? Where does it's just like you getting into this room that is in full chaos, and where do I start to fix this room? Where do I start to clean up this room or this mess
Yeah.
after your, I don't know, teenage kids have had a party at home? Uh, and then, of course, just start anywhere and focus on that and go
Yes.
your way through the room. And
Mhm.
that's pretty much like we may do it, be able to better be able to fix whatever is wrong in this world, right? We until we reach that point where we reach to whatever we want to fix then, where we can detach from the other thing and just focus on, just cleaning the living room table first, before we get to look under the sofa or whatever.
I
Oh, yes, go on.
No, I just want to say that you have a beautiful illustration of what real change is about. We can't have major change without going incrementally. So real change will happen incrementally, little by little.
Mm.
Anyway, yeah.
And what just again popped up in my mind is that when you're detaching, and this is something that's very important, uh, detachment or some call it Stoicism, some call it Taoism, because there's
Hmm.
uh, ideas in there of it in those philosophies. Uh, some people think that it has something to do with not caring, uh,
Yeah.
and uh, and that's very sad because that's not it. That's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely not it. If you choose to focus on one thing, or if you choose to not engage in, I don't know, political discussions, it
Right.
doesn't mean that you don't care. It just
Hmm.
doesn't. It just means that you don't want to put your energy into it right now.
Yeah, I like to hear more about that because some people will associate lack of reaction with lethargy or, like you said,
Right.
not caring.
Hmm.
But what is Stoicism? Can you tell us more about that, or Taoism, and
Hmm.
how do
Oh,
you apply that right now in your
I,
life?
I'm myself. I'm very in the beginning of
Okay.
exploring this. I started off with listening to podcasts
Okay.
and reading books about it. So there's tons of books about this, but the idea is very, very old. Taoism is I don't know how many thousand years old. It comes from uh, a person that we don't know a lot of, Lao Tse,
Okay.
um, and he describes the way of not engaging, Tao Tao Chi Ching.
Tao Te
Uh,
Ching. Oh, beautiful
yeah,
book. I read that a while ago. Yeah.
yeah, and and it's so interesting, and it's nothing that you just read and oh
Mhm.
uh, put away, but you read it and you read it again and you read it again, just one chapter and again and again. You just like you have a good wine on your tongue and play with it in your mouth. Um, you
Hmm.
find the different notes of what I don't know, oak or a plum or all these things
Yeah. Yeah.
that tickle your taste buds, and that's the same thing with this book. You read a chapter and you read it again. You let it
Yeah.
fly around in your brain, and that's wonderful.
Hmm.
And it
Okay.
uh, it tells us, or it tells me, that's what I'm taking from it, is that if if we uh, if we don't try to fix things, if we don't try to control things,
Hmm.
then instead just leaving things to their natural flow,
Yeah.
just like a river, right? You
Okay.
can try to put yourself in the river, try to hold the water, the life. Life is going towards you. You just want to stop it, and you fight the water and the stream, and you want to
Yeah.
control the water shouldn't flow that way, no, that way, and you're giving so much energy. You're wasting your
Mhm.
energy because there's water coming and coming and coming for a hundred
Right.
thousand of years, and you're not gonna win. So
Right.
instead, we could use the force of the water
Mm.
and use it for our to whatever we want to use it for,
Yes.
and be happy with it, actually. And
Yeah.
sometimes if we try not to control the flow of life, things
Hmm.
will just appear naturally the way
Yeah.
we want it or need it. Because those are two different things, right? Sometimes we want stuff and we don't
Mm-hmm.
get it and we're miserable about that. But maybe it's not good for us.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow.
seeing
Yeah.
uh, this de-engagement, this detachment, and just letting things flow. That's also
Mm-hmm.
the idea of Stoicism
Yeah.
that comes from ancient Greek and Roman philosophers
Mm-hmm.
that have contributed there, and it's just not doing, non-engaging, just to let things flow naturally and live with it and just love it the way it develops.
Yes. Wow, that's very powerful. Not fighting the flow of life
Yeah,
and actually surfing on it rather than
that's a
fighting.
yes, exactly.
Yeah. Hmm.
The waves are coming.
Yeah.
You can't do anything against it or about it. You can't change the waves.
Hmm.
Definitely not. But you can use your
Hmm.
surfboard and ride the waves and
Yes.
just get somewhere else where you want to go or where life takes you. Life takes you maybe. And
Yeah.
that's a beautiful picture actually.
Hmm.
Just using whatever life throws at you
Yes.
to have fun because I have heard that surfing is fun.
I haven't tried surfing. I do boogie boarding. It's a little
Hmm.
similar, but I love it. It's a very ecstatic experience because
Cool.
it's very humbling too because you realize the force of life. For me, I've learned a lot from the ocean about
Hmm.
exactly what you're saying, the letting go,
Yes,
the detaching, and going with the flow, literally.
right.
And it's very eye-opening.
And maybe as you mentioned, the the water. Many people that have uh, lived by the water a long time, or
Hmm.
have any other positive memories from being at the sea or a river or a lake, they actually feel very attached to water as one of the natural elements. And
Yes.
maybe that's just something that
Hmm.
nature wants to call us back to.
Yes, we come from the water, the ocean. We're made of water
Yes,
primarily,
yes, we
and so
are.
I like to see the ocean, la mer, which is also the
Mm.
word for mother in
All
French,
right.
that same spelling as our mother. Yeah,
Mm.
it's very poetic, huh?
Oh yeah, it
But
is. Yeah.
so yeah, we have maybe that pull. Go back to
Yes. Maybe we
the
should listen to it more often.
yeah. It's actually very relaxing usually to
Mm.
listen to that. Yeah, that's
So how
great.
are we going to round this episode off?
Yeah.
Round up.
Well, like you said, going in the room that our life is little by little and decluttering it, whether it's our mental space, whether it's like um set of beliefs or
Mm.
life, structure, and then decluttering it so as we
Mm.
can reattach and then make space for new things because
Mm.
um as we deattach and stop clinging onto things and declutter, we have clarity and we have more
Mm.
awareness. And doing also mindful living would help us notice that we might be too attached to our opinions or certain ways of doing things or
Yes.
people.
Mm.
So
Let go what doesn't serve us,
right.
doesn't make us happy.
Yeah. Yes.
And without guilt, that is maybe something we should add.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
if it doesn't make you happy, you don't need to feel bad about letting it go. Whatever it
Hmm.
is,
Yeah.
uh, if you feel that a certain relationship or a certain connection
Hmm.
to
Right.
I don't know, political view or a religion doesn't serve you any longer, then well, why not letting
Yes.
it go? If it's just for an hour or a day, why not? Just
Hmm.
and then you can just go on and look how it feels and come back later.
Yes. Because there
Wonderful.
can't be peace. There can't be peace if we cling onto things. We're too rigid. And if we
Yes,
let go, then we can feel that peace.
yes. Because again, I think we saw that we said that last time when you grab something, when you hold on really tightly to
Mhm.
something, then the flow, the blood flow through your arms or through your guts, if you think you're
Yeah.
clinging to certain thoughts or um, there's
Beliefs, opinions.
beliefs, opinions, right? And if you're worries, there it is. If you're worrying and you're holding on to your worries, then your
Hmm.
whole gut is clinging together, and that the blood doesn't flow, and then you're
Hmm.
not open. You're not open
Yeah.
for life, uh, letting life throw through you. So detaching is a very important step that can actually be life-saving. I don't think that's an exaggeration at all.
No, the attaching to all of that, including our own storylines about ourselves and labels.
Oh,
And right?
beautiful. Oh, right. Now you open a big door to a completely
Yeah.
new thing. Our own life story. Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be true, right? Oh well, we'll get into that in a different episode,
Yes.
I guess.
Yes, for sure. It's nice to open the door to the next
Yes.
topics. And so thank you so much, Christopher, for this beautiful, eye-opening, lively conversation as usual. And thank you all the listeners and viewers who have joined us.
Yes. Right. Thank you, Caroline. And it's always a pleasure talking to you, and I hope our listeners see it the same way. And as always, leave us a like if you enjoyed our episode today, and send it to someone else that might have some use of it, or even consider following us. That would be even better. Uh,
Yes.
of course, that would be some attachment if you follow us. So think about it
You can
if you
always
really
get
need
attached.
us.
Feel free.
Right.
Nothing wrong with
Thank
that.
you
Yeah.
so much, Colin, and everyone who listened
Thank
and
you.
watched. See you next
Yes.
time. Bye
Bye. See
bye.
you. À bientôt.